Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sam's Bead Shop, where class is now in session. I am Shyra of Sam's Bead Shop, and today we're going to go on a little pearl knotting journey. I don't know about you, but I love the actual look and feel of a knotted pearl necklace. However, for the longest time, and I've been beading for many decades now, for the longest time, I was really sort of anxious about pearl knotting until a friend really helped me out with some simple techniques that got me started. And so that's really what today's class is all about. The objective is that by the end of class, you'll be able to get some string, get some pearls, get some beads if you're not a fan of pearls, and just be able to have some fun and practice your knotting techniques. So there are many different ways to knot. Today, we're just going to talk about one of them. And the reason for that is I think a lot of times it can get a little bit overwhelming when you're talking about one needle versus two needles, one string versus two strings, using a tricord knotter or another knotting tool. And there's lots of different techniques that we can go over later. But for now, we're going to just work with one string, one needle, glorious beads, and then we will have ourselves, hopefully, we'll see how it goes, a knotted necklace by the end of class. So welcome. I hope you have your cozy and your comfy and you're ready to get started with whatever beads you have at your disposal. So I'm going to move this switch right here. And I'm going to show you first our example of the day. So I'm using some 8 to 9 millimeter freshwater cultured pearls, as well as rubies, some tiny little faceted rubies, in order to knot my necklace today. Thought about using the sapphires, but I'm a July baby and rubies are the name of the game. Welcome. So glad to see everyone popping in. And so you can see that a lot of times, one of the, I guess, benefits of a knotted necklace is that you have this flow to it. And the traditional way of knotting uses silk cord. You can use other things. There are more like cords that are not natural, that are man-made cords, but the silk cord gives just this flowy, drapey feel to it that's been used since prehistory. It came into popularity again during the time of the Roman Empire, and then again during the Renaissance. So for me, silk cord is always going to be the way to go. I think it's just beautiful, and it gives such lovely draping. I actually got to make some silk cord once, and it was really interesting to work with the silkworm cocoons and spin it into thread and then boil them and then be able to spin your own thread. But we're not going to do that because that's going to take way too long today. And of course, the goal is to get you started so that you can have yourself a beautiful necklace or bracelet or whatever you want to use. I do want to talk about the tools we'll be using today. We will be using size 2 100% silk beading cord. This is available in the shop. You can also get a variety pack of different colors, which is pretty cool to use as well, but I like using it in the white. We're going to be using beads, of course. I've got my pearls right here, and I am going to continue using rubies in this design just so that it shows up pretty easily so that you can see the contrast. Totally optional, but you might want something to help you get those pearls or get those knots really close to your pearl. And so in the shop, we carry precision pliers, and those are super helpful to really, because they have that thin tip. So it's going to help your knots form really close to the pearl. You also might have heard of using tweezers. That's my preferred method if I'm not just using my hands. So with the knotting, there's, like I said, there's so many different ways and methods and tools and tricks you can use. But when I was learning knotting, like when I seriously dedicated myself to it, I wanted a way to knot and not have to bring a million different supplies with me. I wanted a needle, thread, beads, and that's it. And so that's kind of how I learned, and how I really want you to start learning if this is the beginning of your journey. And then, of course, we can add all the extra stuff as you become more proficient. India, excellent. The best part of pearl knotting is that you don't have to worry about your necklace falling apart. I mean, I'm sure if you're watching this, you may have a situation in your life where you remember just a necklace or a bracelet just disintegrating into a million pieces. Mine was on public transit. I adjusted my purse. I was wearing a crossbody purse, adjusted the purse. And just as I was getting on the train, my necklace went everywhere. And goodbye, necklace. It was devastating. It wasn't like an expensive or special necklace, but it was definitely embarrassing. So pearl knotting or knotting in general helps alleviate at least one little stressor in your life. So I've got my beads, I've got my silk, I've got tweezers. When you buy the silk, the needle comes attached, so you don't have to worry about finding a beading needle to work with. And then you're also going to need some general findings. One thing that we carry in the shop that's super cool are these clamshell tips. And the way these work is that you would tie a knot with your silk, feed it through the clamshell. Maybe I like to use a little bit dot of glue to help my knot stick. And then you have this wonderful sort of neat end to your strand of whatever it is that you're stringing or knotting. I really love the look of those, especially with some other beads, like when I'm knotting gemstone beads. Love that. We have them in silver and gold, so that's good to use. My preferred method is to use French wire or bullion, and that's what we're going to do today. I like it because it has more of a simplistic look. You're also going to need a clasp of some kind. And then I'm also using some Tiara Cast oval jump rings that we also sell in the shop. So you can get those here as well. The clamshells are very nice. And they come in like different sizes. So as you start to get more proficient and you're moving from one strand maybe to like a 5-strand knotted piece, you can look for some of those tiny clamshells that help you out. So in talking about silk, there are different gauges that we carry in the shop, gauges 2 through 6. 2 is very, very fine and is used for really things with very small holes. So I like using it with pearls because it gives a little bit of wiggle room. You can also use it in some gemstones that are very finely cut. If you're going for beads that are a little bit heavier, you might want to go for a thicker gauge of silk wire or silk cord, and that would be like a size 4 or a size 6. The other thing I consider when dealing with silk cord is just how prevalent I want my knots to be in my design. So a size 2 cord is going to make knots that are very small, that aren't very visible, and the attention can then focus on your beads. However, if you're someone who really likes the look of the knots between the beads, you might want to go for a thicker gauge. I would say always just check the size of the holes on your beads first. I had a friend who made this glorious piece where she tie-dyed the silk cord and then used it as an element in her design when she was knotting. And that just looked super duper cool because I had not thought of that before. So these cords come with 6.5 feet or 2 meters of the cording on it. And we're just going to dive right in, okay? I could tell you all the history and things about knotting in general, but I do want us to get started. So 6.5 feet on a cord. And because we're only using one string this time, you might not want to unravel the whole thing. In general, I mostly do, because of course, here we are, we're making a bracelet. It's going to be what? maybe I'll make mine 18 inches. I like the look of an 18-inch bracelet or necklace, excuse me. That doesn't mean I need 6.5 feet of the cordage, but I am going to take off most of it because I also don't like playing thread chicken at the end. Want to make sure that I have enough. So I unraveled most of it. I would say a good 4 feet or so from my card. Give it a little cut. And then because silk is organic, you are going to have to prepare your silk cordage. And the way to do that is to just there's a couple different ways to do that. The simplest one is to kind of just stretch it out a little bit. So I'm taking it, can't really see on the camera, but let me show you that I have some tension here and I'm just running my thread through my hands to make sure that I release and prepare my thread. Because otherwise, if you don't take the time to prepare your silk cord, what's going to happen is your knots are eventually going to not be, okay, I think I'm going to stumble every time I have to say knot and knot because that's just my sense of humor. But I'm going to try my best not to. If you don't prepare your thread, what's going to happen is that your knots are going to become a little bit looser, and then you'll see a lot more, it'll be harder to get consistent knots, and then you'll see a lot more thread between it. All right. Ooh, I see. Yes. So there we are having a giveaway for our GemFest classes. I'm going to tell you about it in a bit, and I will have a question for you to answer as well. So I'm taking this just a couple times, running it through my hands. I've also seen silk cord prepared with like hot water, but then you have to dry it, and we don't have time for that, y'all. So we're just taking our time, the time we do have here, to make sure that our cord is nice and ready for us. So the next thing we're going to do in this method is if you have a clamshell, you would make your knot at the end, right? So that you can use your clamshell as your end piece. I'm going to use a little bit of my French bullion or my French wire. And by a little bit, I mean like not even half an inch, just enough to make sure that I have a loop at the end. So I'm going to thread it on. You can see it's really more like a very thin slinky or coil of wire. Gonna thread it on. Like so. And then bring it all the way to the end. So here's my little silver French wire coming all the way to the end of my cord. Hopefully not too far. There we go. And I also like to leave a little safety tail because you never know what can happen. Maybe I need to attach something. Who knows? So I have my French wire on, and the only thing I'm going to do right now is just make a knot, right? For this one, just going to run it around my finger. Knot it so that I have a loop. It's very easy, pliable to work with if you've never worked with French wire before. I'm going to tie one more knot to secure it. And then as an optional thing, you can put just a little dab of like Hypo Cement or E6000 to really secure your knot. And then you have a nice little loopy there that you can use in the future to attach a jump ring and your clasp when we are ending the piece. It's just a personal preference of mine that I always add all my like endings and findings at the end. Who knows, I might want to add an extender or a dingle. I don't know. So I've got my French wire. I've got my loop. I've got a tail over here just in case. I'd rather be prepared than not prepared. Cherie, you can. Maybe not with the needle that comes with the card, but you could get other beading needles. These beading needles are very, very thin. All right, so we've got our loop. We have our long working strand. And in this method, we do not have to, oh, there we go again. We do not have to preload all of our beads onto the strand. There are some methods where it's more helpful that you just load up all of your beads and then may be able to make the knots through there. But because we're only using this one string, it's easy breezy. You do not have to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to start with a pearl. Just thread it all the way on, and then I'll show you how we make the first knot. I'm going to move this out of the way. So India says, I was taught to use the whole card and save the excess with the needle. That's a good way to do it too. I think there's many different ways. I just prefer not taking it off of the card. The needle comes with the card. So when you buy the little the silk cord, it comes with a needle attached to it already. Alrighty, so I have my bead pressed up right against the knot, and the next step is to make the first knot. And here's where anxiety comes into play, right? Because I don't know about you, but when I'm starting a new project, whether it's knitting or crochet, and I drop a stitch or sewing, you feel like if you do the first one wrong, the whole thing is just a disaster. Might as well start again. But this one is not going to be a disaster because we have our fingers to help, we have our thread to help, and if you have your precision pliers or a pair of tweezers, that will help as well. So the most important thing that I found in knotting is making sure that you have enough tension without pulling it so hard that you're going to damage the thread, right? So I'm going to start with taking my silk cord, going around my fingers, and if I go too fast, don't worry, there are many knots to make. Pulling my needle through, and I am using, remember, a lot of thread here. So right now I have sort of my pretzel knot very loose, just like this. And what I'm going to do is, working with my tweezers, I'm going to reach in through the loop of my knot and put my tweezers right on top of the pearl. You want it as close as can be, just like this, so that you have some tension. With your other hand, what you're going to do, and I'm going to do this again. It's kind of hard to do when you're going slow. I'm going to move this out of the way. And I'll do a couple over a black background too, so you can see it that way. All right, reach in through the loop. And of course, as you all know, the first one's probably the hardest. Reach in through that loop, grab my thread. And then I'm going to pull the cord. See if I can get it closer. Pull this cord so that my knot is forming underneath the tweezers, in between the bead and the tweezers. Okay, so I pull, 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 making sure, again, that there's that nice and tight. There's no real room between the bead and the tweezers. I'm going to pull it. And then as I'm sliding my tweezers out, I'm also going to use my fingers to lock it in and get my first knot. Hello, hello. So looking on this one, it's maybe a little bit easier to see for the contrast. When you do that, when you make your little knot underneath, it just makes it so cute because, again, we're using size 2. Oops, I'm so sorry. We're using size 2. So it's not going to have a huge presence in your design. They're just going to be tiny little knots in between each thing. If for some reason you only had size 2 silk cord and you wanted your knots to be a little bit more prevalent, all you would do is make 2 knots in between each bead. And that way it would be a little bit bigger and they would be a little bit more visible. So I'm going to use an alternating pattern. Tried to trick me, not using sapphires, using rubies. So next up is a ruby. All right, thread it on down. All right, have my tension, right? Going to tie it around my fingers. Send it on through. Anyone else, when you're working on a project and you have a long string, find that it sticks on everything next to you? Like, move away, tools. I do not need you right now. All right, got it here. All right, coming back in with my tweezers. Gonna reach in, have it sit right on top of the ruby. Nice and snug. Pull, 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 pull. Remember, you're making your knot right underneath. And letting it slide through. Now, one thing that you may come across, and I've already come across it right now, so life is all about adventure and swerving, right? Is that the holes in your pearls are much thin. Very, very small. Perfect for this size 2 beading cord. If you're doing an alternating design, such as this one, the holes in the rubies and the sapphires, they're a little bit bigger. And so that would be an instance where you're like, maybe I do want to do a second knot just in between the rubies and sapphires to make sure that it stands still. For me, it does not matter that much. I happen to like a little bit of the more organic feel to it. But if you want something that is extremely structured, you can go ahead and make 2 knots. This is with just the 1 knot, and it worked just fine. All right, so let's go to town. Let's do again and again. So we're taking a pearl this time. Threading it through. Sitting all the way next to that knot. So nice, so cute. Wrapping our thread around and pulling. I usually put my thread down, just especially at this stage when it's so long. It's too much unless I grow a third hand, which would be very handy for crafting projects. Make sure that your tweezers or your pliers are sitting right on top of that pearl and form your knot underneath and pull, 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 pull. What is my technique for not getting knots, in my silk cord? So I usually try to have enough room to stretch it or to have it lay out flat a little bit. That's not always doable. And so it's just something that I'm very careful of and mindful of as I'm going along. Now, there will be times when you pull too quickly, as I did here, and you see, oh no, that is not good. My knot does not sit where it should be. And that's where, again, your precision pliers or your tweezers might help, because you can actually take these out. What's nice about silk is that it's a little bit forgiving at times. So you can actually take the knots out. It's hard to do on camera, but bear with me. And then you can pull it over and then start again. And I'm glad this happened because I really wanted you guys to see that it is possible. All right. I'm going to be off camera for just like 2 seconds, but I'll leave my piece here. So you can marvel at the rubies and pearls. I'm just blind, y'all. I am half of 90 years old now, and my eyesight is not what it once was when I was 13 and didn't need glasses. Pearl knot surgery indeed. All right, I am taking that out. You thought, who is Jessie? Jessie's here. Maybe. All right. I think I got it. Come on, knot. Out. Spring chicken with bad eyesight. So we are going back to our ruby. And this can be done again with multiple gemstones. I would say that the thing to be careful of when you're working with knotting a gemstone is how sharp the edges are. Because if you come across some gemstones that have like rougher edges, like sometimes some of the Indian cut kishis might, or just any kind of bead in general, it might damage the silk cord, and you do not want that. You do not want that indeed. Alrighty. All right, so remember, go around, through, knot, and pull. I'm going to see if I can do this one quickly, because otherwise it'll be a 5-hour class of knotting, which would not be good. Through, pull, reach in with your tweezers or your pliers. Remember, you want to reach in right to the top of that bead, right? Make sure that it's nice and snug, and pull through. Happy almost birthday, Carolyn. July birthdays. All right. So how many of you have experience with knotting? How many of you use this technique, or what techniques do you use? Like, what's your favorite knotting technique? Or do you not have one? You can't potato me. It would not go well. Pull. All right. Bead-along knotting tool. Yeah, I've used that before. Let's keep going. Once you get the hang of things, and especially I find once you've done a few, then it gets pretty easy, or you don't have to think about it as much. I think it's just the start where it's like, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? I use the knotty to do it all. Yep. Tweezer in fingers. There's nothing wrong with tweezer in fingers. Again, your fingers are attached to you, so they're a great tool. All right. Maybe if I put it down, I'm going to pull. Make sure that knot is under my tweezers. Pull. Pow. And knotting all is great too. So if you were to use Indian cut gemstones, I would highly suggest that you check to make sure size 2 will work. There are also a couple of other techniques that might be more, or that might just be easier to use than the single strand method of knotting. Yeah, I when I finally got knotting, I don't know why it was so stressful. I was just, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. Aha. Someone had asked about how do you make sure that your cord doesn't get knotted as you're going. Do you see that? That has the potential for catastrophe. So I'm going to very carefully straighten that bad boy out. Ooh, excellent, Jody. I can't wait to see what you make. Here. All right, pull. I kind of want to look into some other colors too. Like I love the neutrals. I love the white for your basics, but what if we got and I don't even know if it exists. This is just my brain thinking. What if we got lime green, the silk cord? I think that would be pretty. Do I know what I would use it with? No. Maybe peridot. Coming up with a plan. I can absolutely show you that in slow motion again. Do you see my catastrophe happen? Wah, 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 wah. All right. This one's not bad. Not bad at all. And it probably happened because I was trying to go too fast. And the silk cord gods were like, you know what? Let's throw her a loop. Because, of course, they also speak in cordage puns. All right, so here is our little knot that came just in working. Okay. Catastrophe averted. All right, so I'm working on a pearl now. Ooh, Connie says she can't get enough of pearl knotting. That's amazing. All right, so we've got our pearl nice and situated next to our ruby. We're going to take it. Some people swear by using 2 fingers. It really just depends on your comfort level. 2 fingers. Put your knot through, or put your needle through, just like that. And pull, 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 pull. All right, this is where you can very carefully lay out your thread so that it does not form a giant knot. It really is. There's something traditionally elegant about it that I just love. All right, so we're going to take this. Remember, we come in with our tweezers or our pliers through the loop, situate it right on top of the bead. So there's no real wiggle room. And then carefully, carefully, carefully pull our knot closed right underneath, like so. And then give it a tiny little gentle tug. So the only reason I use my fingernails to make our knot nice and tight right there. Oh, that's a good one. You can barely even see it. I like that. All right, so we are on Ruby. Annie says, the energy and feel of pearls and silk is so nice. I agree. But I also like pearls in any context, so. Oh, thank you, Danielle. All right, here we have Ruby. Oh, yes, a mala would be a lot of knots. Wrapped it around, pull my needle through. Gentle pull. Reach in, grab with my tweezers. Nice and snug. Bring your knot closed right underneath your tweezers. And pull, 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 pull. Like so. Don't worry, I won't do the whole thing. We'll get to a point where we stop. But if you're watching this on the replay, so for me, I always like to watch a class first and then maybe take notes and then watch the replay to actually try the class. So if you're watching it on the replay, I want to give you enough time to like practice, because really the best way that you can get better at knotting is to knot everything. Just practice, practice, practice knotting. Challenge yourself to make like 5 knotted necklaces. What is the most extravagant pearl knotting I've done? I had a commission piece for a triple strand knotted pearl. And the pearl chosen by the customer was one that I had to like special order because they had a very nice budget to use. And so they gave me the money, I bought the pearls, and then I knotted it. And the clasp and findings were all 14 karat gold. And it was absolutely beautiful. And I gave it away. Well, it was not mine. I could not afford it. But it was lovely. I'm actually working on a commission piece now for a friend using some black pearls. I will definitely post a picture when it's done. I'm going kind of slow with it just because it's for a special gift. All right, so I've got here. Right, come on in with tweezers. Hello. What is going on? There we go. Make your knot right underneath. And pull, pull, pull. I'm tempted. I have got a couple of strands of those like big Baroque pearls at home, and I'm tempted to see what I can do with knotting those. Oh, and opals. I have never knotted opals. I'm assuming that it can be done. But I also think that I would also want to be very calm when doing that. All right. Let's get that knot on, or that pearl on. What? Ruby on. Hello. Yes, we absolutely want to see what everyone makes with their knotted designs, even if you wind up not making anything. Even if you're like, oh, look, I knotted. That's great. It's like, what, 7 beads just knotted right there. Go ahead and share. We want to see. There is no shame in starting off small. Janet, if I send them to you, will you just knot it for me? The stress level. It's my nice strand of Ethiopian opals. It's not in that just like a regular strand. So if I knot them, I want it to be the best. Or maybe I can ask Lynn to knot them for me. All right, snug with your tweezers. Pull, pull your knot. Right underneath. And pull. I thank you for thinking that I make it look easy. Let me tell you, practice, 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 because at the beginning, I was terrible. And still, like, I have to focus on it because otherwise I would probably just forget things and not have the right tension, and then things would go wrong. So here's a unique situation. I have a pearl on my needle, and you can see it actually goes on the needle. It's fine. I could probably just give it a little tug, and I will, and it will be okay. But as you progress in your pearl knotting techniques or your wisdom, one tool that you might find helpful to have on hand is a bead reamer of some kind, just so that you can make the holes a little bit bigger. For this one, I think it'll be just fine. One more tweezers. It's sticking out, so it should be joyful. Joyful. It is. And it's not going to damage the pearl, but I did not like put a lot of force in that tug. If I needed to do that, I probably would have just not used that pearl and gone with another one because I don't have a reamer today. Well, I mean, I think macrame and pearl knotting, basically just the same thing. Would you agree? No? Jesse's shaking his head and be like, no. Well, you can macrame with beads.
It's a dart, for sure.
So here's the deal. One of the methods of pearl knotting is to use 2 threads and just square knots.
That would be more.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's what I said. It's a start. Yeah. And that's, most people don't consider single square knots macrame.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Macrame is more like crocheting or knitting with square knots or overhand knots or some other knots.
Can y'all imagine like a tatted or knotted poncho or shawl? we're working one string right here, and I'm already what if we used 50 strings and all those pearls? They don't have to be this big. That would be very heavy. All right. Don't get distracted and make sure that knot's underneath and pull. Isn't that a great combo? Especially on, what time is it? The black background. I was like, oh, that's just a lovely gift to myself. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna do a ruby. Definitely squirrel brain. Is anyone actually nodding right now? You don't have to be making this. You could be making whatever. All right, 2 fingers around and through. If you're just coming in, we are pearl knotting and gem knotting using a size 2 silk cord. Our fingers and an optional set of pliers or tweezers, whatever you have on hand. Fingers, pliers, or tweezers. We stick our tool through the loop, right at the edge, having some tension against the bead, and tie our knot underneath, top of the bead, bottom of the tweezers. Like so, and then pull. Jody, you're going to be a master in no time. I fully expect a knotted necklace by tomorrow night. Says me. All right. We're keeping on going. All right. Here we go. Bum. Everyone feeling okay with the knots? This one's a pretty simple knot, but sometimes you just need to see it again. All right, got the knotty part. Stick through. Tension on the pearl. Pull my knot close underneath. Do you see how, because it's a little bit longer and there's some weight to it now, it just seems like it becomes easier and easier as you go. So theoretically, you could like string a 40-inch pearl necklace, and hopefully it would get easier by then. I have not done that. Pearls any day, all day. All right, where are we? Ooh. Ooh, pearls for special occasions or all day. I'm seeing all day, any day.
Gotta have your gardening pearls.
Gotta have your gardening pearls, right? Gotta have your camping in the rain pearls. India, today's focus was really just on this simple technique. I actually, in addition to this one, I actually like the 2-needle technique where with the square knots. I think that one's cool. So I can probably record either a small class or a reel to show that one. And of course, how to use the tricord knotter. It's not my favorite tool because I'm a very hands-on person, but I know how to use it. Love it. So Cherie says, I have a strand of pearls that my father got my mom in 1956 when he was stationed in Japan. Yes. So let's talk about restringing. That was a great comment because it brought up some things. Hopefully, or not hopefully, but you have heard that pearls need to be restrung, especially on silk. The frequency of when that happens is really dependent on the person wearing them. In general, with moderate wear, you should be able to restring pearls like every 1 to 2 years. And that's just because the silk breaks down over time. If you're using a more nylon type of material, it's not going to have that problem necessarily, but silk definitely will break down. The knots will become looser. You'll have just a little bit too much wiggle room. I have a customer who bought a necklace from me, and for some reason, just the way she is, I have to restring her pearls like every 8 months or so. But it's okay. They're lovely, and I want her to enjoy them, and I'm glad she wears them. So every 8 months she comes and she calls me and she's like, it's time. Like, what did you do? All right, bringing that on. Definitely. So you can clean them yourself, usually with just a soft cloth will do. Make sure, I like to, especially for my good pearls, I like to clean them when I take them off at night before I put them in their little sleeping bags, because all my nice pearls are stored in either satin or velvet bags. But if once a year, it's probably a good thing to take them to like a professional cleaner who can take a look at them, assess whether they need to be restrung or not, and then of course give them a good cleaning. Pearls can be an investment. They're like pets. You got to take care of them. All right, tension, pull, 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 pull. Do you see that? I did not do it on top of my knot or on the bottom of my tweezers. All that means is that it would be difficult to get my knot laying right. So I'm just going to move it on down over like that, and then pull, pull, pull. Well, you gotta love your pearls. So storing pearls, it's important that they have just a little bit of air, especially kind of like the nicer ones. Your day-to-day pearls, not so much. It's not as critical, but pearls are, they're not creatures, but they're, creations of the ocean. So have the natural humidity in the air is good for them. Pearl pets are good. So all of my pearls are stored in a way so that they can, quote unquote, breathe. I would never store them in like plastic permanently. Oh my goodness. I just looked at the clock. All right, we did not get too far, but that's okay. We're going to keep going. Remember, the best way to get better is just to practice, practice, practice. Ocean babies indeed, Colleen. Now everything's getting all twisted. It's because I'm talking and trying to rush. Don't ever try to rush. Take your time. Do nice intention. Pull that knot underneath. Like so. Oh, that's awesome, Kim. When my grandma passed, I became the one that was in charge of all of her jewelry. And it was very interesting to look things up and do some research and some appraisal with a jeweler. She had some really nice pieces. Rachel has had a hint. Am I running out of time? I think I am. All right. One more. No, I can do a couple more. It's only 3:51. Finishing it is not that complicated. We'll keep going. Oops. Maybe we won't. Again, see, this is why I can't watch TV. Certainly could never ever watch pickleball and not at the same time. That wouldn't have a good result. Yay, I'm so glad you ordered some pearls. Which ones did you get? So I know everyone sees the classic white strand of pearls. You don't have to knot them that way. You can get some funky pearls. Some cool pearls. Indeed, Stephanie Marie, just keep swimming. Just keep nodding. Just keep nodding. Tension and pull. I am very, very grateful that we have pearls in the shop because I love them and I think they're beautiful. And I'm excited that all of you get to learn how to use them and appreciate them too. So I want to show you something that I did, and I did it earlier. So at the beginning, I had a knot that wasn't laying quite close as I wanted to. And I did that again. I know it's very hard to see because they are very small knots, but there's a little bit too much freedom here, and I don't like that. So I could, of course, take the time, undo the knot. Silk loves me. It'll work. Or I could just make another knot. I have not revealed the question yet. I will soon. All right, let's get this here. And this will probably be my last one. Then we'll talk about ending and then the giveaway, because giveaways are fun. And we have such amazing classes for GemFest. We want to celebrate them. All right, sit down, pull. All right. So we're going to stop there. Obviously not finished. I got 6 inches done. But let's take a look at the finished piece here. Actually, I could even do it this way with my little sample. So before class started, I just kind of was playing around. I wanted to see if I wanted to use the sapphires instead of the rubies. And so I started it just as we went over in the beginning. Of course, I knew this wasn't going to really become anything, so I didn't leave a long tail. Put the French wire on, knotted it. Again, if I had a little GS Hypo Cement, I would probably put a little dot there just to secure my knot. Then I went ahead and knotted a couple pieces on. To finish your piece, you're going to do the exact opposite if you are using French wire. So I would Where it's so small, y'all. Look, do you see where it is? Right there. Did not even feel it. So I would string it on, right? Then tie my little knot around it and make a loop. That would be a very small piece of something, but I don't know. I'll show you because I can always just cut everything. Where are you, needle? All right. French wire. You would do the same if you're using a clamshell as well, right? You would do the exact opposite as you do to start. So you end with your last bead, put the clamshell on, then tie your knot inside, have a little bit of glue to secure that knot. So I've got my French wire like so, right? Again, silver, very hard to see. I'm sorry, guys. Silver on the white. And then wrap it around just to make your knot like that. I'm not going to finish this one just in case I want to add more beads, but let's take a look at the finished piece itself, because you can see here's where I did end it with the French wire, then went ahead and attached a jump ring and half of my clasp. The French wire, I don't think we currently have. Maybe Rachel can look into getting some. It's definitely an option, not required at all. Like the clamshells, I think, give a very beautiful finished look as well. And I've seen people knot without French wire or clamshells. It's a different look than I would be used to, but it is possible. All right, so that's how you would finish with French wire, jump ring, and your clasp. And you get a beautiful, beautiful necklace or bracelet, because it could easily be a bracelet as well. So can I tell you about this giveaway we are doing for Gem Fest? All right, I'm going to pull up my notes. I know Rachel's here, but I have my notes as well. All right, we go back that way and then go to solo layout. Hello, everyone. Let's talk about giveaways. Giveaways are amazing. And so we are giving away to 3 lucky winners $10 store credit to the shop. And in order to enter, you got to do a couple of different things. 1, you have to be able, and forgive me, I'm looking down at my notes so I don't miss any of the steps. You have to comment on all 5 or all 6 now, right, Rachel, of the Gem Fest classes in the playlist. And I think I saw her link that playlist below. In your comment, you have to answer a question. And I'm going to tell you what the question is for this class in just a second. You have to make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. You have to make sure that you have an account on samsbeadshop.com. And you got to do all those 3 steps by Tuesday, July 29th, because we are going to be announcing winners on that very next day on the 30th. Woo-hoo. All right. So Rachel says we're adding a bonus class on Tuesday, but it's totally fine to comment on just 5 of the classes. So here's the important distinction that you need to know. In this live chat where we all are talking now, this is not the place to comment. You want to comment on the actual comments of the video. So after class ends, go to those comments and answer the question. Make sense? All right, so my question for this class is, you always seen like the classic round pearls, right? But pearls come in many different sizes, many different shapes. You've got rice pearls, you've got Baroque pearls, you've got coin pearls. You even have some fancy shapes, right? Because depending on what nucleus they implanted, you can get butterfly-shaped pearls, heart-shaped pearls, whatever. So my question for you is, what is your favorite shape of pearl? Are you more of a classic type of person? Are you more of a stick pearl type of person? Ooh, I have many examples because I brought down Michelle's piece. Let's look again. So Michelle, this is one of Michelle's necklaces with all the pearl soups. This is also a really great way to practice knotting. I do have one of these that I made with just pearl soup, just leftover pearls that I've used from projects. And you just knot them all together in one strand and they go and go and go and go. So we've got coin pearls, button pearls are the ones that are kind of flat on one side, stick pearls, faceted pearls. What is your favorite shape of pearl? All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me in class today. If you have any questions, you can also ask those in the comments. I'll be checking it today after the class is over and tomorrow and actually throughout the weekend too, just to see if you have any questions about the beginning stages of knotting. I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful evening or morning wherever you are in the world. And again, let me know if there's anything we can do here to help at Sam's Bead Shop. Goodbye, everyone.